So my intent here is to make a handful of really short, probably ultra basic, maybe not ultra basic, but I want to make some videos that are a lot more straight to the point to help anybody along the way if you're struggling in one particular section. So this one today is just getting started. This is getting started with CATIA, maybe even CAD in general. How do you go about making a part? What is the concept? And how do we work within this 3D experience platform? So when you first start it up, you're going to see this, maybe you're going to see a gray screen. What you're actually going to see is a product here up in this top corner, and that is your active model. Let me go ahead and start that up. So it might look something like this. Now I have my tree showing over here. This is the specification tree. I can hit F3 to hide that. So your opening screen, like I said, might look a little bit something like this. What you need to know is that the way that this platform works is it starts up by default with a part all ready to go for you to start doing something with it. And this may not be what you want for a couple different reasons. Maybe you didn't want to start a part. Maybe you want to start an assembly or something different. But really, it usually comes down to this. The management system in 3D Experience works in such a way to where if I were to, make or work, on this part here to make something, if I look at my tree here, it has this made up name. And so you want to go and you want to name it, which is, as usual, more difficult than most other programs in the world. You have to go to product and you have to go here to give it a name. And then later down here on this one, you might want to name that one as well. That'll be the name that it's saved as. Now, when you save it, you don't exactly get to pick where it goes. So if I were to hit Control S right now, it would say save complete. I'm not going to do it, but it would say save complete. And you might not know where it goes because you would be thinking, it didn't ask me, so where the heck is it? Well, the thing with 3D Experience is that it saves it online. You have your online cloud system, as with so many other programs, but it is a little bit different. So if you come over here to the top right, where right now it says solid modeling up here, if I hit the drop down, it shows me all the different probably projects, we might say, that I've been working on. It's really just a folder. So you have a place where you can make these collaborative spaces. This is your online work area. And inside of that, you can make folders. So when I say they're projects, they don't have to be projects. It's just a folder that I contain stuff. So I got one called Common Space. Here's one for class models. Other ones for different classes that have been going on, and then different things, doing an off-road electric longboard project, snowboard designs, etc. So you have these different places. Whichever one happens to be selected right now, as in this solid modeling right here, this is where it would end up getting saved. And as I was saying, that may be probably not where you want it to go. So what you do is you go down here to manage. Here you see my collaborative spaces. That's literally what it's called, but yes, this is mine. So I have all my projects here, the same ones you saw in the drop-down menu. Now, if I want, I can come up here and I can make a new one. So I'll say new collaborative space, and I'll say class, and then I'll give it maybe a date, 2022 dash, at the time of this, it will be 24th. Okay, so class 2022-1-24. And then when I hit create, it will end up down here. You might have to wait for a little bit for it to show up here. Oh, it kind of blipped for a minute, so maybe it is there. So class right here, class 2022-1-24. So what you need to do is you need to change to that particular folder that you want to work in before you save the thing to anywhere. But the problem is going to be this. I'm going to click on class 2022. It's going to ask you, who you want to be, and this is fine. We'll be a leader, and we'll hit OK. And you're going to get this, not allowed to switch collaborative space. And what it's saying is you can't switch spaces while you're working on a model that has not been saved yet. And that is frustrating, and there doesn't seem to be a way around it. So here's what you got to do. You either have to just close it before you do anything, which is by far the best. or you have to end up saving it wherever the heck it goes and then change places and then do some other work, which I don't want to talk about that right now because I'm trying to get to just the basics of building. But you got to know where this is getting stored. So I close that. Do I want to save it? No, I don't. And then you get the Dassault Systems gray screen here now. Now I can come up here and I can change to class 2022 and it'll be okay with that. And there you go. So now that I'm in the right location, I can start making a part. Now, if you got really used to just opening it up, maybe, you're just practicing with this as well. You open it up, you make a part, you save it, you don't really care because it's all just practice parts. Well, you'll want to get into this kind of a habit. But once you do this, now you have to know how to open and start a part. So you can do it a couple different ways. I can come over here to this menu here. And by the way, you see how it's got these different little quadrants in here? They're kind of changing this. It used to be all four were very separate, and then this play button was separate as well. But you want to come over here to the side. You want to hit on the edge there, and now you can see your different applications. Up here, you have your favorites, and it's good that they did this because they have a lot of software here. So if you scroll through this, you'll see all the things that we have. Everything we'll be doing for the most part is going to be in what we call part design. So if you're new to this and you're thinking we're making parts because we're talking about a thing called part design, you're not entirely incorrect, but we are very specifically in a place of Dassault Systems CATIA called part design. So as you see, I'm scrolling, LMNOP, and I get down here, and then here's part design. We want part design. We do not want part design essentials. Okay, so this has got a few more tools. So you could click this, and it'll say launching part design, and now we have a new part here, you see? And then if I hit Control S, it will save it in my folder that I just created. If you're following along with anything like this, or you're doing any kind of practice training on your own, very much would recommend just make yourself a new little folder, and call it practice, call it class, whatever you need to. Okay, so I'm going to close this because I want to show you the other way. The other way is you can come up here to the plus sign, and you could say new 3D part. So you hit this, and here we go as well. Okay. There is potentially a little bit of difference between going one way and the other, and this is also a general concept with CATIA. We have part design, we have surface design, we have assembly, and maybe some other workbenches. Sketcher is included in this. But as far as this way that I just created it, the way that it works, if you go to up here to hit the plus sign, it's going to make a new 3D part, but if you look down here at the bottom, we have these different icons that we can use to make things. These are all the icons from the part design workbench. So it seems to be, right, I don't have empirical evidence on this, but it seems to be whatever the last one was that you used. If you used surface design, if you used part design, it will show up as that. So you might see different icons on here, or from time to time, if I do something, come up here and I were to make a part, you might see different icons and I'd have to switch. So that's a concept in itself. I'll get back to in a second. If I make it the way that I did over here, then I'm specifically saying open up part design. Now, if I created the part, let's close that just for now. If I created the part over here and it did open up in part design, but I wanted surface design, which is something we'll work with quite a bit down the road, I could come down here and I could look for the here we go, generative shape design. Now if I select this, rather than opening up a new part, it should just change to the surface design icons down here. So here's the concept behind this. So it's a little bit of a long tail for me to get here, but the reason I want you to know about this is that the idea that they have, they're calling them apps now, but classically, if you talk to anybody that's been doing it for a while, we're all going to call them workbenches. You make a part on a workbench. Let's think like a regular, real workbench. And over there you have drills and things that make holes in stuff. So that's the drilling workbench. And then I want to take a part and I want to bring it over to, say, the sanding workbench, where we have all the stuff that sands things. I don't make a new part that I sand. I pick the part up off the table and I move it over to that other workbench. And so that's what we're doing here. If I had been working on a part right now and I changed from solid modeling, which is part design, and I went over to surface design, I wouldn't make a new part. It would be the same part I worked on, but now I'd have access to the surface design tools, which allows me then to do surfacing on a part that I made in part design, which again, if you're new to this, which you probably are because you're watching this, that might not make a whole lot of sense. It will later, okay? So that's how we get started with the, the online system. In the middle here, you can see if I highlight this, there's these little planes. And the color coding with 3D Experience is different than CATIA V5. So anybody coming from that world, or if you're working in aerospace and you're still using V5, this will be maybe a little bit frustrating because they've changed a lot of the look. I think that they didn't pick the colors very well because, as you can see, when I highlighted, it's kind of gray on gray-ish and it's hard to tell. We can change that. So if I want to make a part, what I got to do, I'm going to look over here at my tree. So again, F3 opens and closes the specification tree, open it up, show it, and then hit the plus sign here next to this thing right there. It says 3D shape. So we can see we've got an XY plane, YZ, ZX, etc. Right? All right there. And then this is our part body. This is basically, for now, the folder where everything is going to go in. So as soon as I start making something, you're going to see a plus sign appear right here, and then things are going to show up below it. So I'm going to pick this plane right there. And you notice as soon as I picked it, we had for a moment there a little bit of a menu come out. That's actually pretty helpful. They sort of, I'd say, maybe mess things up in one way, but then they help them in another way if you're coming from older places. So I hit the plane, and then I want to find the sketch icon. So if you go over here where it says Standard, Essentials, Wireframe Surfaces, etc., I can go to the Position Sketch. It might be helpful to know that all of these icons under Essentials, this is kind of a made-up toolbar that's sort of your quick toolbar. A lot of these other things are in other places as well. So here's the basics. I pick the sketch, and I go into Sketcher, is this world. They call it, it's a different workbench. And now I'm looking down on the part. I'm looking, perpendicular to the plane that I selected, and you see that the grid shows up here. So I'm going to pick a circle, and I'm going to move this around. You notice that as I move it around, it's snapping to all the intersections here. That's a thing we'll talk about later. And it also snaps to the center. But when it snaps to the center, there is a circle with a dot inside of that. That means that we are going to anchor to the point. So that's what the dot means in the center there. You're going to constrain it to a point in the center. So I click, I'm not holding it, I click and I pull out here and I let go, and now I have a circle. Now if I want to make this into a three-dimensional object, now I have to extrude it. And the word here in CATIA is a pad. So we're going to make a pad to make this thicker. Before I do that, I wanted to do this. I want to move this a little bit just to show you. See how this tilts? I'm still in 3D space, but it puts a grid up here and flattens it out so you can look down at this and understand that you are in a 2D sketch environment. All these figures down here, all these different things that you can do are all for doing two-dimensional shapes. So to get out of here, you find this little box with the arrow, and that's exit the workbench. So I hit that, and now I'm back in my regular space without the grid on there. You roll it around, you can see it is 3D, but it's just a string basically in the air. And then to extrude this, like I'm saying, you want to look along the way here for something that is going to extrude a solid. And so I look at all these things, and if you were to kind of go through currently what I have on here, you go, wait, I don't see that thing I'm looking for, right? If you knew what you're looking for. This is still that surface design workbench that I was mentioning. So I would go, oops, I'm in surface design. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to part design. And now my icons change, but like I said before, the part is still here. So you look right here, I've got pad. Next to it, grayed out, is pocket. Pad makes a thing thick, solid. The pocket will put a hole basically into something, take a shape that you made and cut it through it. It's grayed out currently because there's nothing to cut through. The same with some of these other gray features that you see. There's nothing that it could work on currently, so it doesn't show it. So I hit the pad, and you see that it's starting to thicken up. I want to mention that you're going to hear me say this a lot in the beginning here with these beginning videos. There are a lot of interesting things that can happen depending upon what you're choosing first, and I want you to know how this works. So, for example, in this case, it's doing what I wanted it to do. It's going to pad that element. However, maybe I didn't want that to happen. So I want to show you that I just clicked on the background, and this sketch is not highlighted anymore. See, it's blue, and then if I click away, it's not. So know that there's two ways to go about doing this, at least. I can pick the item, and then I can go to pad to extrude it, or I can hit pad first without it being selected. I get the window over here comes up, and then I can choose it. You need to be aware of this. It's not a huge deal, but anything you're choosing, it could even be a point or some other line, and it could pop up with an error and it's confusing, or you just might not get anything. So just know that you need to do that. As a pretty strong habit, I'll mention from time to time, click on the background, click on the background. I'm doing that so that everybody is making sure that they're deselecting whatever it is that they're, that's in the world that they're looking at right now. So I look at this window, I have this item selected right here. This is the pad. This window, it's kind of like a tab here. If I want to do a different type of a pad feature, I can select this, which we'll talk about later. There are fields down here that may or may not need to be filled in. The basic idea, if you just look through each one of these, is the profile is pretty much always going to be the sketch that you made. The direction is which way you want to extrude it, which by default is going to be perpendicular to the plane or to the sketch that it's on. And then we have a few other things here. We've got dimension, and you can choose up to next, last, plane, surface. We'll talk about those later, and how far it goes. And over here, we've got this so that if you want to, you can make it mirror the direction. We also have a second limit that allows me to have it go the other direction a certain amount. So go here. I have to, by the way, you see how I can't select that? It's got the little black, white stop sign thing. Make sure you pick in the field. And then it goes, oh, okay, that's what you want. Okay, there we go. So I'm extruding this. I don't have to pick the direction because it's a flat sketch. The sketch was on a two-dimensional plane, so it goes, I can thicken. I can use that as a direction. So I will go perpendicular to that plane up 20 millimeters. If I didn't want it to be 20 millimeters, I could make it 50 millimeters. And then simply hit OK. Okay, so here's our solid part. Now, if I go over to my tree, I can hit the plus sign here. I can see the pad, and under that, I can see the sketch. And this is a wonderful way to do this. If you go to Fusion 360 or a different CAD program, they have their different ways of laying this out. Fusion 360 does a flat timeline. I really like this methodology of doing this. SolidWorks is somewhat similar. The item that was used to make the thing gets contained within that thing. So it becomes a lot easier down the road when I have a million things in here to know which thing begat which thing. So this sketch here would be known as the parent of pad 1, which you can actually come here, right click on it, you can say parent children. This might not seem valuable right now because we have one simple little thing, and through the entirety of probably what we'll progress through here, it still might not seem very important. But if you're working on any kind of part that has a lot of complex features into it, it's nice to be able to do this and look and see that that pad right there has a parent of sketch 1. And if I double click on that, then I see now the parent of sketch 1, the thing that things are based on. That will become a common topic throughout all this stuff that we do. So if I were to, for example, somehow be able to delete the XY plane, then nothing, the sketch wouldn't have anything to sit on, and the pad wouldn't have a sketch to pad. So all the way down the chain, there would be issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to delete this, and I'm hitting delete on my keyboard, and then up here it says, do you want to delete the aggregate elements? I could deselect that one right there if I wanted to. If I hit OK right now, the sketch and the pad will go away. But if I got rid of that, then it will just get rid of the pad, and now the sketch will be there by itself. I do want to get rid of that, so delete right there. Okay, so I'm going to do this again because I talked a lot as I was doing it. Now I want to do it fairly simple. I want to make a disk, and I want it to be a certain size. So I'm going to click on the background to deselect everything. I'm going to go to Sketch, and I'm going to pick a plane, which is a little bit backwards from the way I did it before. I'll hit this plane, and then right here, I didn't talk about this before, we have our sketch axes. I can change these things around if I want and click on the background. It solidifies. Don't worry about that right now. I come down here, I pick one of these tools. Here's the circle. I'm going to pick that. I'm going to purposely let it snap right in the center and click and move it out, and then click again. There's my sketch. Of course, I could dimension these things very accurately if I wanted to later. So I'm going to exit out of this. There is my two-dimensional sketch. I'm going to click on the background just to deselect it, just to show you. You do not have to. And then I come down here and I hit pad, and then I pick the sketch that I want to extrude, and it's going up this way, and that is maybe not the direction that I want it to go. Look down here at your compass. Z is upright, so I know that actually up is up here, and so I can actually just flip this around, and now it's going the other direction. Hit OK. Right, click on the background. There's our shape. As far as movement goes, now that I have something solid here, I can tell you again, I'm holding down mouse button 2 and 3, but let me talk about this just a tiny little bit. When I go to zoom, you're going to find that if you scroll the wheel like you would probably think that would be zoom, nothing happens. Not right now. It's used for something else, and I feel that it is rightly so. It's a very good thing for its purpose, I believe. Now, if you hold down just the middle mouse button, button number 2, this is panning. So now I can move around like this. I don't have to reach up and hit a control or an alt key or something like that, like many CAD programs do. I can just grab it, move around. And then if I want to rotate, I hold down 2 and then 3. That's kind of the order that I do this in. Push 2 first and then 3 and keep holding them. And now you can rotate this around. It's going to feel awkward for a little bit, but you will get used to it. Let go, and then I want to tell you about zoom. The way, again, that I feel that they put this together is actually fairly ingenious for a workflow. It's not so good for beginners because, again, it kind of hurts a little bit, but like I said, you'll get used to it. If I want to zoom, just like rotate, I do 2 and 3. So now I'm rotating. But if you let go of 3, leaving button 2 pressed, see I got double arrows now? Don't scroll the mouse wheel. Push the whole mouse forward and backwards. You have this smooth dolly effect. I like this a lot. I like it because it's fast. And I can go from rotating to zooming all by just letting go of that third button. And if you are dealing with a large product, again, think something aerospace, marine, automotive, if I have to scroll my mouse wheel for 10 minutes to get it to zoom in or out where I want, that's troublesome. So this is very quick. Okay. So one last one. Like I said, middle mouse is pan, but also what middle mouse does is it centers things based upon where you click. So if I go over here to this part and I middle click, but don't hold it, just click. It sometimes takes a few times because you move the mouse a little bit while you do it, but it now centers the part where I clicked into the center of my screen. Now what it also does is it centers the rotation point, okay, the origin of rotation. So if I wanted to rotate right around this corner, I could middle click right there. And now you see, I move right around there. It's also helpful to know that when you do middle click on that, that's also the zoom center point. This doesn't work like other programs where it zooms in towards where your mouse is. Wherever you middle click, say right there, and it centers, that's where you're going to zoom into. I have a couple more things I want to do, and then we'll call this one done. I want to talk about the kind of the complement to the pad, which is the pocket. And another thought about creation. If I want to make a sketch, I need to have a flat two-dimensional plane. I cannot make a sketch on this curved surface out here. I cannot, it's not a flat plane. I can't use it. So I can use these planes that are all inside here, but now that I've made this thing, I have a flat surface down here and I have a flat surface down there that I could also use to make sketches. So I go over here and I'm going to pick this top, and then I go to sketch, and I'm going to flip that upright and I'll click on the background. And if you notice, when I turn this, you can see that that sketch plane is on the top of this part. Now I've turned it, and if, by the way, that bothers you, well, I can always go to some of my different icons down here to help me out. So this one here that's got the plane with the little eyeball looking at it, this is normal view. In CAD software and in CGI software like Blender, if you see these words called normal, they mean perpendicular, okay? So it's not normal like, would you just please be normal? It's, would we look at this in a perpendicular way? So if I hit this, it's going to flatten the plane out, you see? So It's very common to move this around and work in a 2D world sideways a little bit because it's very helpful for certain things. But you want to be able to know how to flatten back out if you need to. So I'm going to pick a circle again, and I'm going to snap right to the center point here. I'm going to bring this out a little bit, and I'm going to exit just that quick. And then I go to pocket. I hit pocket, and right now the pocket is going up in the air. If I were to hit OK, we would end up with a warning here saying you're trying to cut air. I can't do that. That was going up. It looked like a pad. I can't. So what I can do is I come back over here to pocket. I could delete it and start over, or I could double click it and go to edit it. And now I can take it and flip the direction. So now it's going down into the part. And I don't want it to go all the way through. Maybe I just want it to go 10. And if I hit OK a lot of times, by the way, it'll just do what I want. But just know that if you wanted this to actually update the preview here, click in some other field that doesn't ask you to do anything. Like maybe I just click right there, you see? And now it added. You could also just tab away from it. So there is the feature. And then when I hit OK, there we go. This is the basics of CAD, right? We make a solid thing and then we start cutting through it. So then, for example, I could go here and I could hit sketch. So then I go, okay, well, I want another circle. I'm going to snap to the center. I'm going to bring it out like this. I'm going to exit out, and then maybe this time I will pad it up, and maybe I'll pad it up 60. And so I just typed in 60 and hit enter really quick. Now I've got a new flat face, and so I can go there onto sketch, and I'll just click in the background. I'm not worried about flipping that thing around or anything right now. And I hit this, and I bring that out, and then I exit my sketch, and then maybe I go to pocket, and I pocket that down so much, and now I've got a hole through it, you see? So that's it. That's where I want to stop right now, because this real easily just starts going into a whole lot of other things, and I would like to end this video now, and I want to make another video based on this, on constraints and how they work, at least in the basic, the auto constraints that you're going to see while you're working with it. I will mention I have to jump the gun a little bit on some topics, because some of these topics that would be later down the road, if we did this in a linear flow, you're going to accidentally do these things and it's going to cause grief. And so I have to explain a bit about how CATIA thinks and works, so that if you do something by accident, it doesn't completely derail you from doing what you need to do at the moment.